I ever read them all during this summer? No way. Hi book lovers, my name is Christina and welcome back to Cozy Novel Niche. Today is the first official day of summer, so we're on the 22nd of June, and here I am with my summer TBR. Usually I do it the first day of June because I want to consider like the calendar months, but this time, yeah, this is what this is. This is life. So here I am at the official beginning of summer with my summer TBR, as if I planned it. Yeah. So I went through my bookshelves and I picked a bunch of books that really called to me. But this summer it was so hard. I have so many books that I want to read. Summery books that I was keeping for summer that, I don't know. These are just some of them. Will I read them all? No. Will I read this and not the others? Maybe not. But let's get through them. The very first book that I have here are fiction, but like literary fiction, contemporary, let's call it something like that. And the very first one that I have here is Rules of Civility by Amor Towles. This book was published for the first time in 2011, I think, and this is a fiction book that is kind of, I don't know how to call it, like, for me, I have a specific category in my mind for books like that, like proper 1920s, 1930s setting. And this book, I really wanted to read it for the longest time because of a book, Olive, and this is one of her favorite books of all time, and she reads it religiously every year. So I really wanted to give it a try, and this specific edition was gifted to me by one of my best friends, so it is very dear to me, and I cannot wait to get to it. I mean, if I remember correctly, Olive reads it every year in June, I think, and so I think that that's the reason why my mind associated it with summer. The only thing that I know is that she adores this book, that it is set in New York City in 1937, apparently, or at least at the beginning of the book. And at the moment, I know nothing else, except the fact that I really want to read one more book by this author, and it's A Gentleman in Moscow, and it's been on my radar for the longest time too. So, I mean, it has like amazing reviews, and I just want to give it a try and see what it's about, and maybe I will give you a review with a little bit more of content and not this just rambling and babbling of words. Yeah, let's go on. The next book was strangely published in 2011 too, but this time it's in Italian, and I know that you know this cover. This has become a worldwide success of a book. It's L'amica geniale by Elena Ferrante, or my brilliant friend. It's the first book in the Napolitan Quartet, and this book, I mean, pretty much everyone has read it or watched the series. I managed not to watch the series and not to read the book up till today, but since it's a book that follows the story of two young girls who become friends in their childhood and then follows them throughout their life, set in just the suburbs and surroundings of Naples, I really associate it with summer for whatever reason in my mind. And I know that the first book covers their childhood and adolescence, like the teenage years, and I just want to give it a try and see what the buzz is about. I think that I will enjoy it because so many people loved it so much, so I really have high hopes for it, and I think that this one is one of those that I'm quite sure that I will read this summer, so finger crossed. And the last one that I have here that has nothing like fantastical or fantasy going on is a book that I recently decided to get on a whim by an author that I knew zero about, but now I'm so fascinated, and it's Wild Strawberries by Angela Thirkel. And this author was so prolific. She wrote so many books, so many, and this book too in my mind goes together with this one, because it's about like proper society in 1920s, 1930s, just that golden era where you can set a small book that is a romantic comedy, apparently, just a short, sweet one, and Wild Strawberries really made me think about the end of spring, the beginning of summer. And this book specifically follows our main protagonist, whose name is Mary, and she goes to a guest house of her aunt, and then she falls in love with a handsome playboy called David, but apparently her aunt has different plans for her and she has someone else in mind, and so she wants her to meet someone completely different and see how the things go. So I mean, no high stakes here, just a lovely, enjoyable romantic comedy. And this author is also the nephew, I think, no, the goddaughter of Barry, who is the writer of Peter Pan. So that's mind-blowing. And she's so lovely. Like, there is this photo of her in the 1920s, I believe. It's just beautiful. So yeah, I definitely want to get to this one. It's small and short, so I think that I will manage. And then the other three, we are moving into fantasy realm. Let's start with, I think, a young adult fantasy romance, so maybe it's a romantasy book. It's been all around the internet for so long, and it's Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I've never read anything. I managed to never read anything by Stephanie Garber for whatever reason, and this is the first one in her trilogy, I think. And the reason why I want to read it is because of Pinterest, strangely, because I ended up with a feed full of beautiful illustrations, and each time that I was looking like what this illustration is about, it was usually inspired by this book. So at the end I just surrendered and decided that I want to read this story. So here we are with this book, and I don't want to read the whole behind page just because too spoilery in my opinion, but just the beginning is: for as long as she can remember, Evangeline Fox has believed in happily ever after, until she learned that the love of her life is about to marry another and her dreams are shattered. So angsty and fantasy and romance seems like a good summer read for me. Yeah, we will see if I will be able to get it. It doesn't seem so, but it's a little bit like, it's 408 pages. It's not so short, so, but it's very pink. So it makes me think about bright days and happy days, so we will see. Probably it's depressing and gloomy, but we will see. Then the other fantasy that I have here is actually an Italian fantasy, and it's called Tredicesimo Nume by Giorgia D'Aversa. This book has a very unique setting. It is set in this fantasy world that is kinda Roman Empire inspired, I believe. And we follow two priestesses in this story and their relationship with their gods. In this world, the gods used to speak with priestesses, but then they stopped talking to them for some reason. And so we're following these priestesses and what unravels in the story. This is as much as I want to know right now. I want to go into it as blindsided as possible, and I think that it's a standalone, which is a plus, absolutely. So I will give it a try, and I love the cover. I mean, it definitely gives you the right vibes about like a society and an old civilization that is maybe getting destroyed by time or something like that. And this, I think, will be a great read for the end of summer. I imagine it like that. I don't know why, but the vibes, guys. And the very last one, I'm not sure if I will read exactly this book or something else, but I'm really in the mood for a fantasy chunker that will start for me a whole adventure. So if not this, maybe I will try to read again the first book of the Good Sword, the Sword of Truth, or something like, I don't know, the Eye of the World, or just huge fantasy classical series. But this is the one that I got and decided to film, apparently, and it's a book by Brandon Sanderson, because I think that it's time for me to delve into the Sanderson verse, since he's so well loved and I really want to read a fantasy that I will love again. I just want to be swept away and taken to a different world at this point. And this is Elantris. This is a book that I owned for quite a bit. I think that it's still considered like a standalone niche book. I'm not sure at this point, but back in the days when I got this book, it was possible. So I will give it a try. I only know that it's a fantasy story, like a high fantasy, I think, or an epic fantasy by Brandon Sanderson, who is a hugely well-beloved author who apparently is master in his art of crafting words and magical systems. So I'm a huge fan of magic and fantasy, obviously. And we're following the story of a princess who arrives to seal a political alliance, but her husband-to-be is found dead, so she still fights for the peace between kingdoms. I think the dead and the ruined may yet have a role to play in this new world because magic still lives. So we are in this world where magic is disappearing, apparently, and I don't want to know anything else. I just wanted a chunker of a book that was a fantasy. And apparently this one is almost 600 pages long. Yeah, this is what I want. I mean, I don't want, but I want it. I'm afraid of it, but I still want to read something like that. So maybe this is the big book of this summer for me. Not sure. I'm not making any promises, but possibly. So yeah, this concludes my impromptu and kind of made on the moment summer TBR for 2024. Let me know down below if there are any books out of this that you've already read and would recommend, what were your thoughts about them, or if you're planning to read any of these books in the near future. Or what are the books on your summer TBR, because that's always very interesting to know. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you very, very soon in my next one. Bye! Ciao!